Charlie was dead. I'm Keith Cate, and welcome back. In this part of A Christmas Carol, Scrooge is swept into the joy, warmth, and wonder of Christmas present. The Spirit shows him a world alive with laughter and generosity, from the Cratchit family's humble table to the crowded streets filled with song and light. But amid all the celebration, Scrooge is reminded that not everyone shares in the comfort of the season. The Spirit reveals hardship, want, and need, and how kindness can still shine even in the darkest places.
Well, wait.
Awaking in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore and sitting up in bed to get his thoughts together, Scrooge had no occasion to be told that the bell was once again upon the stroke of one, because his room had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and the ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked like a perfect grove with crisp leaves of holly and mistletoe and ivy and what? There sat a giant, glorious to see. And it bore a glowing torch in shape not unlike Plenty's horn, and he held it up, high up, to shed its light on Scrooge.
Come and know me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me.
That ghost was clothed in one simple deep green robe bordered with white fur, and on its head it wore no other covering than a holly wreath set here and there with shining icicles. Its dark brown curls were long and free as its genial face, its sparkling eyes, its cheery voice, its unconstrained demeanor, and its joyful air.
You have never seen the likes of me before.
No, never, said Scrooge. The ghost of Christmas present rose. Now, Spirit, you conduct me where you will. I went forth last night on compulsion, and I learnt a lesson, which is working now. So tonight, if you have aught to teach me, then let me profit by
it. Touch my robe.
Scrooge did as he was told and held it fast. All vanished instantly. They now stood in the city streets on Christmas morning, and the steeples called good people all to church and chapel, and away they came, flocking through the streets. Scrooge and the ghost went on, invisible, into the suburbs of the town, and straight to Scrooge's clerk's house. And there was Mrs. Cratchit, Bob Cratchit's wife, laying the tablecloth, assisted by Belinda Cratchit, second of her daughters, while Master Peter Cratchit plunged a fork into a saucepan of potatoes. And now, two smaller Cratchits, a boy and a girl, came tearing in, screaming that from outside the baker's they had smelt the goose and known it for their own. "What has ever got your precious father, then?" asked Mrs. Cratchit. "And your brother Tiny Tim?" No sooner had she said the words, in came Bob the father, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch and had his limbs supported by an iron frame. The two young Cratchits came and they hustled Tiny Tim off to the kitchen table where they set chairs for everybody. Tiny Tim's active little crutch heard upon the floor. "And how did little Tim behave?" asked Mrs. Cratchit. "Oh, as good as gold and better," said Bob. "Somehow he gets so thoughtful sitting by himself so much, and he thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me coming home that he hoped the people saw him in the church because he was a cripple, that it might be pleasant to them to remember upon Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see. Oh, he's growing strong and hearty. At last the dishes were set, and grace was said. For what we're about to receive, may the Lord make us truly thankful. Amen. 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 After the dinner was all done, a fire was made up, and all the Cratchit family drew round the hearth in what Bob Cratchit called a circle, meaning half of one. And by they had a song from Tiny Tim about a lost child traveling in the snow. Tiny Tim had a sad, sweet little voice, but sang it very well indeed. Underneath the gaslight glitters stands a little fragile girl, heedless to the night winds bitter, while the snowflakes round her swirl. Afterwards, Bob proposed, "A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us." "Well, God bless us, everyone," said Tiny Tim. He sat very close to his father's side upon his little chair, and Bob held his withered little hand in his. There was nothing of high mark in this. They were not a handsome family. They were not well dressed. Their shoes were far from being waterproof. Clothes were scanty, but they were happy. They were grateful, and they were pleased with one another and contented with the time. Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
Well, I see. A vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, well, then the child will die. But what then if he be like to die? He had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words, quoted by the Spirit and used against him. He was overcome with grief.
Man, if man you be in heart, not adamant, you forbear that wicked cant until you have discovered what the surplus is and where it is. Will you decide what men shall live and what men shall die? Why, it may well be that in the sight of heaven you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child.
Scrooge bent before the ghost rebuke. And when they parted, and looked happier yet in the bright sprinklings of the Spirit's torch, Scrooge had his eye upon the family, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last. By this time, it was getting dark, and it was snowing pretty heavily, and without a word of warning from the ghost, they sped on and on. It was a great surprise to Scrooge to hear that hearty laugh. It was a much greater surprise to Scrooge to recognize it as his own nephew Fred's, and to find himself in a gleaming room with the Spirit standing, smiling by his side and looking at that same nephew with approving affability. He said that Christmas was a humbug as I live, cried Scrooge's nephew, and he believed it too. Oh, now there is nothing in this world so irresistibly contagious as laughter and good humor. And when Scrooge's nephew laughed in this way, Scrooge's niece, by marriage, laughed just as heartily as he. And their whole assembly of friends, not a bit behind, roared out lustily. Oh, he's a comical old fellow. And that is the truth, said Fred, and not so pleasant as he might be. However, his offenses carry their own punishment, and I am sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. I mean, Who suffers by his ill whims? Himself, always. Here he takes it into his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. What's the consequence? He loses some pleasant moments which could do him no harm. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not. And I think I shook him yesterday. It was the company's turn to laugh now at the notion of his shaking Scrooge. But the whole scene passed. And once again, Scrooge and his ghosts were upon their travels. Much they saw, far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. The spirits stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. On foreign lands, and they were close at home. By struggling men, and they were patient in their greater hope. By poverty, and it was rich. In hospital, and in jail, and in misery's every refuge, the ghost of Christmas present, ho, 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 left his blessing. It was a long night. It was strange, too, in that while Scrooge remained unaltered in his outward form, the ghost grew older, clearly older. Scrooge noticed that its brown hair was now gray. Are spirits' lives so short? Oh, my life upon this globe is very brief. It ends tonight at midnight. Hark! The time is drawing near.
Scrooge's heart has begun to change, but his journey isn't over. The brightest scenes of Christmas have faded and the shadows are waiting. Coming soon, the ghost of Christmas yet to come will arrive, silent, solemn, and unrelenting, to show Scrooge what may lie ahead if he refuses to change. I'm Keith Cate. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon for part 5 of A Christmas Carol.